My SUV hit the guardrail, jolting me awake. The scratch and crunch of metal on metal sounded like screaming, and I didn't have time to think, only to react. I struggled to wrestle the car from going over the edge and down into the ravine, without oversteering and slamming into oncoming traffic. I was barreling towards a sharp turn, and I had just seconds to do something before I'd plunged down to almost certain death. And as I lost control and veered into the opposite lane, everything seemed to slow down. I thought to myself, how could I have dozed off on such a dangerous road? What was wrong with me? Would these be my last moments on this planet? As strange as it is to say, I'm more grateful for that car accident than almost anything else in my life, because it was a turning point for me, a wake-up call, which set me on the path to finally discover a way to get the sleep my brain so desperately needed, so I could stop sleepwalking my way through life, and truly live and experience life in a way I didn't even know was possible before. Hi, my name's Mark Williams, and in this presentation, I'm going to share all the research and science behind a breakthrough 3-minute sleep ritual called mind balancing, which switches off your mind as easily as flicking off a light switch. So your brain is clear, relaxed, and noise-free the moment you lie down. You instantly plunge into a deep and refreshing sleep, and wake up feeling renewed, focused, and energized. It's a technique I've been using for the past 3 years to fall asleep within 90 seconds of my head hitting the pillow. And it's been my secret to more health, energy, and vitality, better relationships with my family and friends, deeper focus, more productivity, and ultimately, greater success in my career. In fact, mind balancing is the secret weapon that's allowed me to triple my business profits over the last 12 months. It works by unlocking your brain's natural ability to renew itself during sleep, by balancing a crucial neurotransmitter which regulates everything from sleep to appetite, without taking any medications or supplements. And it works even if you struggle to remember the last time you had a quality sleep. I'm going to walk you through the mind balancing technique in just a second. But to get the most out of it, it's important that you understand a few crucial facts about sleep most people aren't aware of, and about how I discovered mind balancing in the first place. A recent study conducted by the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom showed those who experienced long-term erratic sleep patterns were far less likely to be successful than those who got a quality sleep. They were also more likely to experience a premature death from heart attacks and strokes. In fact, there is a proven link between poor quality of sleep and setbacks in performance in all areas of life, both mental and physical. And this leads to making more mistakes, being less productive, broken relationships, and feeling like you're stuck. Now, you may have already known that. But what may surprise you to know is that if you feel tired or groggy throughout the day, if you're distracted and unproductive, and you feel like you're dragging yourself around most of the time, never living up to your full potential, it has much less to do with the amount of sleep you're getting and much more to do with the quality of sleep. And once you know how to instantly drop down and get the right quality of sleep, you can be much more refreshed and alert during the day. In many cases, experiencing what it feels like to be truly awake for the first time since childhood, while actually getting fewer hours of sleep every night, if that's what you want. And it's super easy for anyone to do. Let me explain. I spent over 15 years suffering from sleep deprivation that damaged my life in more ways than one. Every night I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the hours tick away until my alarm went off. I would toss and turn for hours, trying to relax my mind so I could fall asleep, beating myself up because I was still awake. My mind cluttered with racing thoughts, trying to balance work, family, and everything else demanded of me. The longer I lay awake, the more frustrated and angry I became. I relied on huge amounts of caffeine to do the job that a good night's rest wouldn't. And many nights, I found myself wondering if I'd ever sleep soundly again. It seemed everything I did was limited by my lousy sleep. Often, it was little things like forgetting appointments or missing deadlines. But the worst part was the toll it took on the most important part of my life, my family. My constant grumpiness and inability to focus were causing my wife and I to drift apart, and my moodiness and lack of presence was affecting my son Cameron. I felt like I was missing out on valuable years of his childhood, years I should be enjoying. I had no energy to take him to the park, to a sports game, or spend any quality time with him whatsoever. The kind of things a good dad does with his kids. And he called me Mr. Grumpy more than he called me Dad. It hurt to admit it to myself, but I knew I was creating a toxic environment for my family, which was pushing them further and further away. It all came to a head that day I dozed off behind the wheel, almost losing it all. Thankfully, I wasn't badly injured, and neither was anybody else. But if I didn't get it together, it could easily happen again. And next time, I wouldn't be so lucky. I tried in the past to deal with my sleep issues, consulting with a variety of psychologists and so-called sleep specialists. They all told me more or less the same thing. Turn all the lights off at a certain time, stop watching TV earlier, switch off my phone, and cut all distractions. Never consume caffeine or alcohol before going to bed. All reasonable suggestions. But they didn't really work too well because I had to restructure my entire life. I tried a variety of addictive medications which made me feel groggy the day after, and were hell to come off. It seemed like I had my back to the wall and the odds were stacked against me. However, I knew if I didn't sort this out once and for all, I was risking my family, my health, my sanity, and ultimately, my life. So I made up my mind to find the answer no matter what. And no sooner had I made that decision than I made the first discovery which transformed my sleep and my waking life forever. I was flipping through a magazine at the doctor's office while I waited for a physical, and I came across an article about the sleep chemical melatonin. The article talked about supplements that were designed to boost your melatonin levels to improve sleep. I remember thinking at the time, this could be it. I rushed off to my local Walgreens to buy a bottle or two. However, my excitement didn't last long. The melatonin supplements worked a little for 3 days, then stopped working. I kept taking them, hoping to see results, but I rebounded bad. A few weeks later, my sleep patterns were actually worse than before. How could this be possible? I'd followed the directions to a T. 16 days later, I still had nothing. I was fed up and ready to chuck it all in and just accept this is just how the dice rolled for me. But then, just as I was about to give up, I found something. That Thursday evening, I was up late, unable to sleep again, surfing the net. This is when I discovered something that took me back to the time of our ancestors. I stumbled on wisdom about the mind-blowing power of sleep, which has been lost in recent times. Looking back thousands of years ago, I realized the most successful cultures placed a high emphasis on the lifelong benefits of sleep. You see, ancient Buddhists have long known that true enlightenment comes from within, a state of knowledge known as Brahman. This is where we realize our true selves and become aligned or in balance with the universe and all its wisdom. Our ancestors slept better than us in fewer hours, and this can still be seen today. In a recent study of the sleep patterns of 3 current pre-industrial societies found in Africa and Bolivia, in this study, scientists found that despite their geographic and cultural differences, there was a pattern among all 3 groups. They were physically and mentally healthy, but only got 6 hours of sleep on average per day. Yet, the most interesting fact was that they maximized the hours they got while sleeping outside or in modest huts, without the aid of luxury beds, pillows, and mattresses. As I read on, it hit me. It's not that I wasn't getting enough sleep, but rather, I was getting the wrong kind of sleep. I dug deeper into my research, and soon after discovered something both fascinating and shocking. And it confirmed my suspicions that many melatonin supplements actually make you groggy, and most people become dependent on buying bottles of this stuff for the rest of their lives. That is how people get addicted to it. You're no longer helping your body, and you need to take more and more of them to get any results. See, the human brain has billions of connections, a whole slew of chemicals that are all linked together. You boost one thing at the expense of another. Basically, your body overcompensates from boosting one chemical like melatonin by dropping another chemical. And you have to take more and more to get the same effect, so that you end up back to or worse than before, stuck in the same old routine. Right at that moment, everything came together like a symphony in my mind. I realized I needed to balance melatonin rather than boosting it. But how? Well, turns out there's an effective way to bring these chemicals back into balance. See, the reason your mind stays active while you're trying to sleep is that you have unknowingly trained it to do so. Your mind stays active if you've been restless, tossing and turning, for many nights, weeks, or even years. Once you get into bed, your brain immediately starts worrying about random things. Your melatonin starts going up and down like a yo-yo. You're stuck awake, desperate to sleep. And the more you try to sleep, the wider awake you become. Some experts refer to this as negative brain bias. It's like a vicious cycle that can feel like there's no way out of it. And this is where a method I now call mind balancing comes in. It simply retrains the way your brain thinks about sleeping to create a new positive brain habit. This makes it easy to get the peaceful and recharging deep sleep your body needs. And your success at this has nothing to do with self-belief or even wanting to sleep.